The Buffalo supermarket shooting suspect appearing in court this afternoon for his arraignment. The 18-year-old is accused of killing 10 people in a racially motivated attack on May 14th. NBC News correspondent for investigations Tom Winter is covering this. Geez, Tom, we got to talk about a lot of shootings these days, and it's certainly not the best place for us to be when it comes to some of these stories. All right, let's talk about the shooter. Was indicted on more than 20 charges, including domestic terrorism. Kind of take us through today's hearing and what the DA is saying this afternoon.
Right. So we understand that he just pleaded not guilty in this case, as we suspected at the time. Obviously, he was initially charged on just several counts that they could make sure that they could keep him behind bars for, but they didn't charge all of the fatalities in this shooting, and we suspected that they would add on additional charges. And now with this indictment, that's exactly what they've done, Yasmin. The main portion of this that I think has caught people's attention is that really for the first time in a high-profile case in the state of New York, we've seen the charge tied to domestic terrorism. This law came into play back in 2020 and allows domestic terrorism to be charged when somebody does something of harm to a group of individuals tied to a hate crime. That's a new state law. It's not federal. It's not something we see nationwide, and different states have different terrorism statutes that they can apply that are outside of the federal system, but it does come with a very stiff penalty. And for that, let's listen to the district attorney.
This is a relatively new charge in New York State. It's only been on the books since November 1st of 2020. It is the first time in the history of New York State that this domestic terrorism charge, motivated by hate in the first degree, has been filed. That charge only has one sentence if, in fact, the defendant is found guilty of that charge, and that is life without parole. There is no minimum, there is no maximum. That is the only punishment on that charge.
Yasmin, in the state of New York, it is, with the exception of very few laws, possible to get parole. And obviously, as you heard from the district attorney there, this particular case, if he is in fact convicted on the domestic terrorism charge, takes that away. It is the stiffest penalty in New York State upon conviction.
That's fascinating. You know what I also think is fascinating is we're kind of seeing these incremental changes, not only when it comes to convictions like this one, charges like this one, or obviously we're going to be seeing some incremental changes when it comes to gun legislation, happening more on a state-by-state level than we're really seeing on this federal level. It seems like New York State obviously making some of these changes, and will that kind of thing happen in the state of Texas, for instance?
Well, not to take up the entire rest of the hour of this show, but from a federal level, there are some reasons why things are charged as an act of terrorism and why they're charged under different U.S. statutes. I think when we look at this, states have a little bit of a broader latitude when it comes to changing their laws. And I think the hate crime component of this, and we know that this shooter said horrible things, white supremacist type speech, anti-black speech. And so that's one of the reasons why in a manifesto that he posted online that is allowing them to bring these charges in this particular case. I think at the federal level, there's some different constitutional and other concerns that could create a problem with that. And of course, one of the reasons why we don't refer to a lot of these cases as terrorism cases, as terrifying as they are, is because we try to follow essentially the prescription of the law. In this case, we can now call it terrorism.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.